Hey guys, let's talk about tonight's season finale of The Walking Dead, and the episode was called Conquer, and wow. Oh my god, so much went down in this episode, and it was great. So I think what I'm going to do, because there's so much that happened, I'm just going to sort of try to do a rundown of all the different characters and what happened in tonight's finale. Because there was so much. And I kind of want to start with like the really big stuff first, because I just needed to get it off my chest. Now, first of all, I just want to address this from last week when Michonne hit Rick in the head. There was so much discussion after the fact as to whether she betrayed Rick, if she betrayed the group. And I, for one, when I watched that episode, never saw that as a betrayal. I saw her knocking Rick out for Rick, okay, for the better good of the group and to stop Rick from himself. Because let's face it, Rick was losing it. And I am so happy to say that we got that confirmed in this episode. Okay, so I want to start with Michonne. We saw her at the top of the episode, then we saw her like an hour later, which I was pretty cheesed about, and then we saw her at the end. And when we see her, she's pretty much sitting over Rick. And Rick finally wakes up after his night of mess, and he's all bandaged up, and she pretty much has the conversation of, what are you doing? And, you know, he is trying to explain himself, but he doesn't tell her the truth. He pretty much, you know, is trying to just say, I did what I had to do. I'm not really apologizing for it, but like pretty much he's just trying to save these people from themselves. And he, you know, he pretty much just went over the top, and he admits to it. And then we get Carol and Glenn and Abraham come in, and Carol's all playing it up like, you know, oh, what you did was wrong, Rick, and you just need to tell them what they need to hear because there's going to be a town hall meeting tonight, and you need to be there, and what you did was reckless, and blah, 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 blah. But then she later comes back and is like, yeah, here's your gun back. And I totally found Carol as an enabler in this episode. I get it. She wants them to get ahead of all the people in Alexandria. But at the end of the day, like Michonne said, don't create the situation to make it escalate. You know what I mean? And I feel like that is what's happening right now with Carol, especially in this episode. But don't get me wrong, I love me some Carol. Okay, so let me go back because I don't want to jump. So Michonne has this, you know, meeting with Rick at the beginning of the episode, and she's still, like, the way it plays out is you feel like she is a little mistrusting of what Rick is saying. And Rick really isn't giving her the truth. So, you know, she pretty much is like, are you even trying to try here? Like being here? Like what is all this about? And, you know, she leaves, and that's pretty much the end of their conversation. It was pretty weak, and I wasn't really pleased. I was like, oh, come on, guys. Like, I want them to have a real conversation. Because to me, the journey that this show has put Michonne and Rick on, you could not tell me, nobody could convince me that she knocked him out and she was about to betray Rick. There is no way that you're telling me that she already knows what it feels like to lose a child, and that she would want to lose Rick and Carl in her life. Like, there's just nobody could convince me that that was an act of betrayal. I completely saw it as her doing it to protect Rick from himself. So then, of course, we get the next scene, which is like an hour later, and she goes to tell Rick, like, are you ready for the meeting? Because it's about to start. And Rick, earlier when Carol went back to give him the gun, he was like, I don't want to lie anymore. And she's like, look, honey, you can't not take this place and not lie at the same time. You can't have both things. And, you know, you can tell that he's pretty much over it. Like, it's almost like Michonne knocked some sense back into him when she knocked him out, right? So at the end now, or, you know, an hour later, when Michonne goes to get Rick for the meeting, he tells her the truth. And all I was sitting on my couch going, thank you, thank you, thank you, because he tells the truth. He says, Carol, Daryl, and myself, we had this plan. We didn't tell you because I didn't know how you would react. We have, you know, we stole 3 guns. I still have a gun. Carol still has a gun. And she's like, so you thought I would try to stop you? And he's like, I didn't know what you would do. And she's like, I'm on your side. Like, she's like, we don't need these people here. And I know that after everything that we've been through, even if it went in a disastrous way, I'm with you. And it was like this scene, look, I love me some Michonne and Rick, okay? As everybody likes to call them, Rishon. And that scene, like they were standing this close together, you cannot tell me, I'm just going to get this out there. You cannot tell me that any of the scenes that we have seen between Jesse and Rick when he was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs even equate to that scene that we just had with Rick and Michonne. You just can't tell me. So they're standing there. He's like looking her dead in her eye. And he's like, you are the one person that could have convinced me to stand down from all of this. And that is why he didn't tell her. And I knew that that's why he didn't tell her off the beginning. And he reiterates that. He says, you could have talked me out of this. And she pretty much says, I'm with you. Like, no matter what happens, no matter what kind of crazy you bring, I am locked in. I'm with you. And then he goes to hand her the gun again, and she slowly just puts his hand down and just is like, no, I trust you, and I know that you're not going to do anything to put me and our family in harm's way. And it was like the best scene, okay? Like, I was like, thank you, thank you, thank you. Because everybody was on the bandwagon that, oh, Michonne is betraying Rick, and she's this and she's that. I was like, y'all need to simmer down, because that is not what we just witnessed. Not at all. And I was even saying that if the show was going to tell me that at the end of this, that she did betray him, I was going to be completely shocked. So I am so happy that that is not how the show was trying to write it. And at the end, those two are like this. And Rick knows that she is the only one who could have had the power to talk him down, which is why she was left out of that threesome conversation. Thank you, and that's all. So, of course, at the end now, you know, they're having their meeting, and Michonne is pretty much saying, look, Rick will do anything for you. He's the ride or die. He will do anything to protect you. He's done that to me. He is this, he is that. He's like, and everybody, you know, we had Abraham, we had Maggie, we had Carol all standing up talking about the great qualities that Rick has shown as a leader, and that is just the bottom line. And let's face it, everybody at Alexandria is afraid because they've been living this like la 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 land, and it's like, get with the program, people. This is the truth. Okay, so Rick, you know, at the beginning, he's all like, you know, still a little out of it, not really, you know, interacting with the community. He walks by the armory. He sees the three guys like guarding the guns, and, you know, I guess he's off to, one, see his son. And I love the scene between Rick and Carl when Carl's like, you need to convince these people. And Rick's like, I might kill some people just to get my point across. And Carl's like, don't worry, Dad, you basically got to do what you got to do. And I love that because Rick is no longer treating his son with kid gloves. He is like, this is what's up. I might have to kill some people because they're just not going to listen to me. And Carl is like, this is home. And I love it when Rick walks in, he says, you're not going to the meeting, you're staying home. He goes, that's what this is, right? Home. And Rick's like, yeah, it is. And he's like, I need to convince them of this. And whatever it takes, whatever it takes. And that's, again, when Michonne said, something's going to go down tonight, but don't be the one to make it go down. And she's like, this is it. This is our home. We're not leaving. Love it. So, of course, then Rick goes and he goes to talk to Jesse. And look, Jesse's Jesse. It is what it is. But I was like, just keep on moving. Because she has... To me, she just holds no weight. Who is this girl? She's nobody. She has nothing to contribute. She's just, I don't know. There's nothing I can say about her. But he goes to her. He basically says, I'm not going to apologize for what I did or what I said. And she's like, well, you were right. And I'm just like, oh, whatever. Fix your window and beat it. So, of course, at the meeting, she's all like, you know, sticking up for Rick, and Deanna starts mentioning about what Father Gabriel said. Oh my God, Father Gabriel in this episode, I just wanted to crush him, okay? I will get to him. I don't even know how long this podcast is going to be because I'm just going to go on forever. But Father Gabriel was just useless once again. But yes, back to Jessie. You know, she said her piece when Deanna was talking about when Father Gabriel came to see. She's like, well, you're just basically, are we just supposed to take your word for it? Did you videotape it? So yes, she was Team Rick, definitely. But whatever. She's just whatever to me. There's just not much more I need to say about her. Okay. So we had some check-ins with Rosita was watching over Tara, and then we had Abraham go to see Tara, and then Eugene was there. And this is the first scene that we've actually seen Eugene and Abraham talk since Abraham punched him out. And, Eugene apologized and he said he's so thankful that he is the one who got them there. And he just wants to let him to know, like, I really am sorry for lying to you, but you got us here, and anything you want is what, I'm just really thankful that we're here, and I apologize. So it was nice to see the two of them make up. It was all good. And by the end of the episode, Tara opens her eyes and she has a little bit of a smile. So I'm hoping that she doesn't have any kind of amnesia. She knows what's up and that we can just move forward with that storyline. Because really, Tara is fine as part of the group, but she's been a non-entity really for a while now. And it's not that I don't like her, but we just haven't really got any more development on her character in a long time. So that happened. And then like I said, we saw Carl in the episode, but he wasn't really a major factor. Then, of course, we had Daryl and Aaron off on their run still, trying to find new people to bring, trustworthy people to bring to Alexandria. And at the beginning of the episode, they see a man in a red jacket, and Rick's like, oh, look, he's like putting something on his face, and he knows how to get mosquitoes off of him. So they're looking at him like he's a normal kind of guy, and they're trying to track him, but he's really far away and they lose him. So they're trying to find him, and this is when they roll up on a gated area, and there are a few zombies in there, or walkers, and they lure them over to the fence and they stab them up, and they go, oh, like they're thinking we can raid this truck and we can get some supplies that we can bring back for the guy that we catch and for anybody else that we see along the way. Well, as soon as they were like, when Aaron had his hands underneath the truck and he was like trying to get the license plate, I was like, oh my God, a walker's gonna like come up from underneath and he's gonna bite his hands and it's gonna be on. And then when they kept showing like the door handles, I was like, oh no, no, don't open it. Please, please, please don't open it. And what does Daryl do? He opens it and it sets off this trigger and all the doors of all the trucks open up and out walk just like a ton of zombies. And of course, all the zombies have W's on their forehead. And we all know who's responsible for that because at the very top of the episode, we finally meet the wolves. But first, we meet Morgan. And of course, well, we don't meet him, but we see Morgan for the first time in a long time. So of course, we all remember Morgan from season 1, and he is one of the first people that Rick meets when he wakes up in the hospital out of the zombie apocalypse. And of course, we got to know Morgan because he was staying in a home where he lost his wife and his child. And there was that really touching moment where he knew he should kill his wife, but he couldn't do it. And it was just like so heartbreaking. And then we've seen him a couple times since then, but Rick and Morgan had a really good relationship. And then Rick went off to find his people or find somebody or his wife and his son. And Morgan was like, well, I'm going to do my thing. You do your thing. And maybe one day we'll meet up again. And I believe it was it Morgan who wrote on the map and then gave it for Rick, and then Rick left it somewhere. So when that's right. He wrote on the map for Rick, and then Rick left it at the church, and then Morgan went to the church and he found the map at the church. After they slaughtered it, after they left Terminus. Oh, that place. Yes. So now we see Morgan at the top of the episode, which was awesome. And he's sitting there and he looks like he's like trying to make some tea or some kind of, not tea, but like some oatmeal or something, because he's got a little package and he pours it into the cup. And then up walks a man with a gun, pointing it right at him, and he's got a W on his forehead. Oh boy. So we find out that he's one of the wolves, and he's talking to him, and he's like basically pointing the gun at him, and what's his name's like, put the gun down, man. Like, I'm cool. And he's like, starts to take some of what he's drinking. He's like, nope, don't do that. He's like, I want it. And he's like, I want everything you have, and I'm going to take you too. And then, of course, Morgan's just not having any of that. And while he's sitting there talking to me, like they're having this whole discussion about everything gets returned. And, the guy, I don't think he says his name, but he basically says, the wolves turn into humans and talking all this weird stuff. But at the end of the day, these are the group of people that have been mutilating all the bodies, chopping up all the limbs, tying people to trees, probably tying people in trunks, and all that crazy stuff that we saw, episodes before. And they're just not good people. So Morgan is like looking over his shoulder and he knows that someone's coming up behind him, and he takes a stick and he's just doing all this, knocks him out. And when we first see him, he wakes up in a car that's been smashed into a tree, and he wakes up and then he smiles, and there's like a rabbit's foot on it, like hanging from the rearview mirror. So, you know, he kind of smiles. And then after he knocks these two guys out, he puts them into the car, and then he grabs the rabbit's foot and takes off. So, you know, Morgan has definitely been a survivor. Clearly he's been on his own. It looks like he hasn't rolled up or maybe he has rolled up into groups and he's been able to get out of it unscathed, but he looks pretty good. And so we see him off the top of the episode, and it's like, yes, I can't wait to see when we see him next, or when he's going to meet up with Rick. So, you know, now we have Daryl and Aaron, and they, you know, all these walkers come out of the trucks, and it's like, it's so intense. The scene is so intense, and they're rolling under the trucks and they're trying to get out, and then they get into a car, and now they're just being smothered by these zombies, and they're just like all over the car. And then they're having this conversation, and Daryl starts talking about how he's going to get out and cause a distraction so that Aaron can get to the fence. And I was like, say what now? It's just not going to be a part of the plan. And he's like, let me just finish my smoke. And I'm like, you are not doing anything here. Like, Aaron, I'm sorry. I like you and everything, but Daryl is not dying for you. So, you know, Aaron has definitely grown on me, and I like the two of them, and I like their friendship. And he says, no, we're doing this together. I'm not going to the fence by myself. You're not going to the fence by yourself. We're doing it together as a team. And they're like, okay. And I'm like, what? There's like 100 walkers outside the car, and they're about to run out with their little knives. I don't think so. So they're like 1, 2, and then all of a sudden you see like one of the zombies' heads splatter open. You're like, huh, and it's Morgan. And then they, you know, do some karate chops here and there, and they knocking them all out. And then they get on the other side of the fence. And once they do, Aaron's like, look, obviously he's like, you look like cool people. So we've got a camp, and you know, you're welcome to come with us. And he's all like, nah, I've got my own thing I'm doing. I'm trying to find somebody, but I'm lost. And he gives Daryl the map, and he's like, do you know where I am, or where I can find this place or whatever? And then he sees the note that Morgan had left for Rick on it, saying, sorry for being an a-hole, blah, 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 blah. You should come to Washington because they're going to need people like Rick Grimes. And then Daryl looks up and is like, what? So, you know, I'm sure the wheels in his head are turning, like, you must be the guy from way back when Rick had the walkie-talkies and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, that was a really cool scene, because let's face it, you don't want to see Daryl have to roll up with any more baddies. I want him to be with people that are trustworthy. And Morgan is definitely one of those people. So now we get to Father Gabriel. Good Lord. Father Gabriel. Oh my God. So he's going through his own little crisis, because, you know, he's still off of his rocker from the fact that he abandoned all those people at the church, and he just can't get over that. And I mean, he shouldn't, but he's just, look, if you're going to go down on your own. Like, do not like put your recklessness in harm's way of our people. So he goes off. He's like, I'm going to go for a walk. He kills a couple of walkers. He comes back. He looks like he's like Looney Tune. He's talking to Deanna's son, and he's like, yeah, can you close that gate? And as soon as he asked that, I was like, oh, this is going to be bad. He goes, sure thing. He closes it behind him and then just walks away. He doesn't close the latch. He doesn't do anything. So, of course, after Rick has this great conversation with Michonne, he's looking out the window, and all of a sudden he notices that the gate is open. So he runs to the gate. He notices that there's like blood on the gate. He sees a trail on the floor, and now Rick is in full-on protective mode. So he's running up and down in the place. Well, this is now at the time when the meeting is going on. So everyone's having their town hall meeting. You know, Maggie had talked to Deanna earlier and was like, look, you need Rick here. What you guys don't understand is you are going to become Rick. That is how we are all, like, that's just the natural order of things. We're all going to turn into who Rick is, because what we've seen, what we've been through, this is who you turn into. And now they're having this town hall meeting, and Rick is MIA. Glenn is MIA, and I'll get to him in a second. And they're having this meeting without him. And Rick is running around Alexandria looking for walkers, and of course he stumbles upon 3 of them, and he's stabbing them, and then he falls back, one's on top of him, and you're just like, oh man, and then he's like stabbing him with his knife, and then the whole face explodes on him, and it's just disgusting. But yes, of course, Rick is in Rick mode, right? It's what you gotta do. So meanwhile, all these people are there going, oh, but we just like our little neighborhood. Meanwhile, there's been a breach. And why has there been a breach? Because Father Gabriel's an idiot. And he then goes to his little sanctuary, and Sasha's in there. And Sasha, poor thing, is just nuts right now. And so we saw her earlier in the episode. She had, I guess, killed a walker. She was going to bury it. Then she's like pulling it off the trolley. I'm like, that arm's going to fall off. The arm does. She falls into the hole. And she lays down with the zombies. And then she later on says, I want to die. And Father Gabriel's like, yeah, you shouldn't be alive. The things you've done, the things, they mutilated Bob and blah, blah, blah. And he starts just like going at her. And then she's like fighting him. And then she's got the gun on him. And Maggie comes in and saves the day there. And then they sit around and start praying together. I'm like, well, Father Gabriel, you're lucky. Because if it was me, you'd have been toast. You've jeopardized the whole crew because you went to Deanna and said that, that these guys are unhinged and that they're not safe and that you've let in the demon and blah, 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 blah. And now you get to be saved once again. He needs to go. Okay, Glenn, stop being Mr. Nice Guy. When he's sitting on the porch and Maggie comes over to talk to him, and he just looks like he's not buying what Rick is selling, because he earlier talked to Rick and he was like, Rick, did you want this to happen? Like, did you want all this drama in Alexandria to happen? And Rick's like, no. And I don't think Glenn believed a word he said. Because when he's sitting on the porch and Maggie comes over and she's like, yeah, I'm going to do whatever I can. I'm going to talk to some people. And he goes to talk to her and he's just like, yeah, forget it. Like, and you can just see that he's just exhausted. He watched Noah get killed in the worst possible way. He's got this idiot Nicholas that's like he's got to babysit, and he just I don't think he really trusts what Rick is doing right now. And he sees Nicholas climbing over the fence and he runs after him. I'm like, just let Nicholas die. Please let him die. And then he goes and runs after him, and then next he gets shot in the shoulder. Of course he does. And then they start fighting, and then, of course, the walkers roll up, and he's going to leave Glenn for dead. And then he almost does. And then they're running through the forest at night, and then once again, they're fighting, and I'm just like, ugh. This scene was just annoying to me, because I love Glenn, but sometimes he's too nice. I just wanted him to shoot him in the head, bash his head open, let him turn, and then kill him. Like, I'm sorry. Nicholas needs to die. He does not get a third chance. He does not get a fourth chance. He already let people go. He already let them die. He let his boy die. He almost let them die last time. He let Noah die. Kill this. Yeah. I can't. There are just no words. So all that went down, and we still have Pete, the nut job, in Alexandria. So there was this awesome scene earlier on in the episode where Carol goes to his house to give him, I don't know, some pie. And she's basically like, she takes out the knife. She's like, I could kill you. I could kill you right now. Nobody would care, really. And they'd believe me because they'd think you attacked me and blah, 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 blah. And she's just like, do us all a favor. Just follow along with what everybody's doing. You're here. Your wife is in another room, in another house. Just follow the program and you'll survive. She's like, you are a weak, pathetic man, and you're in this world that we live in, you're even weaker. It's like, yeah, dude. Anyways, there's just no words for Pete. Jesse, Pete, they're all in the same bracket for me. Beat it, get out of here. I don't care. So of course we knew that thread was not going to be done. So, she hands him the plate of food and she's like, yeah, and I want my plate back washed and clean. And it was just like, Carol, you go. I was like, as much as I was angry with Carol because I totally think she's an enabler, she was killing it to me in this episode. I loved it. And at the end, she walks out, and later on when Rick goes to talk to Jesse and he's standing on the porch, whatever, and he starts to walk away and she's like, don't turn around. She's like, you were right. Almost like, of course, Pete's looking at this from the house that he's living in right now, and his blood's boiling. So we just knew that something else, another shoe was going to drop. And of course, so they're in this town hall meeting, and Rick rolls up with the walker on his shoulder, and he drops it, and everyone's like, and he's like, yeah, this is the reality. These walkers are always gonna get in. We are the prey. As long as we're living here, they're coming for us. And you guys need to learn this. He's like, I thought, how many of you people am I going to have to kill to save your lives? And I was like, wicked. And he's like, but I'm not going to do that. You guys are going to have to learn. You're going to have to change. You're going to have to be more like us. That is just the bottom line, or else you are dead. And he's like standing there with, the crazy walker blood all over his face. And, he's preaching to everybody. And, exactly what he said yesterday is what he's saying today. And he does come across far more sane, and he's got the proof right there. Somebody left the gate open, and this is what happens. They come in. If there's a little bit of a weakness, they will find it, and they will get you. And all it takes is one to be bitten, and then there's two, and then there's four, and then it's overrun. So I love that scene, and it was just perfect. And then all of a sudden you see Jessie, her eyes open up, and her crazy husband rolls up with Michonne's katana, and he's railing all over, these people don't belong here, blah, blah, people don't belong. And then he slits Deanna's husband's throat. Just like that. Now, if we all remember, in last week's episode, Rick was like, we need to get this guy out of here. We don't need to let him go. We need to kill him because he is a threat to Alexandria. And she's like, oh no, we don't do that here. We don't do that here. And guess what? Now your husband's dead. I was like, boom, and there it is. And then she's standing over him, and he's dying in her arms, and then he dies, and then she looks up at Rick, and she's like, do it. And I was like, that's right, baby. This is the new way of life. And when she said it, she's like, do it. And he's just like, bam. He's just like, without hesitation, you don't see him shoot him in the head, but we all know he shoots him in the head. And as that moment happens, all you hear is Rick. And he looks up, there's Morgan, there's Daryl, and there's Aaron. And it's just like, what is going on? That must be what Morgan is thinking. What is going on? Who have you become? Love it. I love it. So, of course, Glenn is coming back into Alexandria with Nicholas. Like, oh, God, give me a break on that. And pretty much it looks like the people of Alexandria are going to have to get with the program because, like Michonne said, we don't need them here. And we will take this place. It just doesn't, she even said, I don't need my katana. And at the end, I don't know if you guys all waited until the very, very end, because I hope you did. We see Michonne wiping the katana off, obviously, from the blood. And she's about to put it back on the mantle where she was hanging it. And then she looks at it. And then she gets her like the sleeve for it. She puts it in, she puts it back on her back. And it's almost like she takes a nice sigh, like, this is back, this is home. Like, that's right. Like, it never should have been off of her back. And that's what we see. So she's going to go back to being ready for anything. And that is the point. You've got to be ready for anything. And then we cut to a shot of, oh yeah. So we see, like I said, we saw the wolves, at the very end, and or just before the very end, and they walk up with the guy in the red jacket that Daryl and Aaron were looking for, and they basically said, oh, like, you're home, stand still, and then they turn him and they slit his throat and he's dead. And they go, oh, we're gonna have to get them all back in the trucks. And I'm like, how are you gonna do that? There's just the two of you. And this is what they do. They've got like this little device that turns on music in the trucks, which lures all the zombies in. Then they shut it down and they set the booby trap for the next poor suckers. And that's how they're getting all these walkers and getting them with the W on it, because they're just killing them and putting them in there. Unbelievable. So at the end, we see the wolves are near. Is that what it said? The wolves are coming. The wolves are close. Shoot, I think it was like the wolves are coming, or the wolves are near, something like that. Anyway, wow. Dude, this was a sick finale. There were so many moments where my shoulders were up. I was freaking out. I didn't know what was going to happen, and I loved it. It was really, really a solid finale. We didn't really have any deaths among our main cast. Pete, whatever, he had to go. We knew that was coming, but wow. Lots went down. We got introduced to Morgan again and the wolves, and Rick is back sane. Look, Michonne, all of that needs to happen is one conversation and he's back. He's back. She grounds him. She is the one person that will knock some sense literally into that man. Okay, guys, I have rambled on for way too long. I am so sorry. That's it for me. Let me know what you thought of this week's episode, and I'll see you when the show returns next season. Bye.